Just to give a quick little intro about myself, I've been into digital marketing since 2010 and managed a budget of more than 120 crores. Okay, so managed a budget of more than 120 crores so far, yearly managing about 30 crores. Touched almost every ad platform out there. You name it, like Google, Meta, LinkedIn, Twitter, Bing, ShareChat, Spotify, Quora, everything, Tabla, Outbreak. So after managing all this and running search being my specialty, I've come up with this scenario that BHAD Gaya, face match and exact match. Okay, so when I started back in 2010 or so, I could see that there was no broad match. There was no exact match and face match. All the talk and articles were about how you can optimize using negatives, conversion tracking. That's it. This is more like a history repeats itself event. That's why it is very significant, because in 2010, no exact, no phrases, no cookies, or rather there were cookies, but not as advanced as today. And what we did then is use as many negatives as possible to optimize. And then a few years later, what we could see is the match type evolution happened, and people started using more of phrase matches and exact matches, and then it gave them the efficiency. But later, when people had this issue of scale, that okay, exact match is good, phrase match is good, but we're not getting the scale. I think that's the time when Google introduced broad match modifiers, and it was a game changer for small and medium businesses because they could control what keywords they want to be shown. Without that, the ad won't be shown. And then people started innovating with the campaign structures on search ads, like the single keyword ad groups. If you have heard about it, those were a thing, right? The maximum efficiency structure that was created with single keyword ad groups. But again, with single keyword ad groups, what was the problem is it was extremely laborious. You need to create a lot of ad groups, and still you have to manage a lot. So by the time people were figuring out what's the thing with single keyword ad groups, and it was getting efficient, Google changed the game again. They said, okay, we'll do close match variants, and people started going crazy. Like, okay, now whatever structures that had put in place for exact matches and phrase matches, everything was gone. Okay, now they had to deal with, okay, how do I manage close variants? And just as they were figuring out, how do they match close variants and prepping in all these sessions and forums that, okay, now there's no meaning for exact matches and phrase matches. Google said they are facing out broad match, broad match modifier, and the behavior was changed to phrase match. And as they did, they also dropped one more bomb. They said, okay, we are not going to give you 50% of the search queries. So you are left with only 50% of the search queries that you can optimize for. So basically, if you put 100 rupees, you only get back data of 50 rupees or whatever the currency that you are optimizing for. And finally, after some time, they also announced that now broad match is the preferred medium of keywords, because now it's the generation of AI and machine learning. So that's why I call this moment in the digital marketing timeline as the BHAD Gaya exact and phrase match. Okay, so with this current scenario, again, I can see that people are struggling with what's happening. How do they optimize the search campaigns? The cost is increasing, and they are left with no options much. Okay, so few options that I can possibly think of is tighter search teams and smaller ad groups. Okay, with tighter search teams and smaller ad groups, you will have much more efficiency. But the problem again is that you can't give machine learning the data that they need, because the volume of data in an ad group is going to be small. Next is higher relevancy landing pages, right? So again, the thing is, when your costs are increasing, you need to increase your conversion rates. If you don't increase your conversion rates, you're not going to get the right kind of returns, or at least the same kind of returns that you used to get last year. So again, you can do what you can do is you can create more landing pages, which will increase the development cost and time and effort, but probably you're going to get the same amount of returns or slightly higher. More negatives is another option, but again, with negatives, the problem is how many negatives can a human being possibly remember, right? Over a period of time, the negative lists and negative keywords become so huge that the problem of conflicting negatives comes in, and it becomes very difficult to manage the negatives as well. Okay, so what else? There is something called as n-gram analysis. If anyone has heard about it or tried it, anybody? Okay, so n-gram analysis is nothing but there is a algorithmic way where you can query the search queries and count the words. Okay, there can be 3 words combinations, 4 word combinations, 5 words, 6 words, 7 words, 10 words. Up to 10 words is what a search query shows. So based on these repeated patterns, you can analyze what kind of search queries are positive and what kind of search queries are negative. Okay, so this way you will get to understand that okay, these are the search queries with this combination of words which are converting for me, and these are the combinations which are not converting for me. Okay, so this is again a very good solution that is there. Not many people know about it, but it's available on the internet. You can find scripts for it, or if you want, please ping me. I can also share that. And this is another approach where you can optimize the search campaigns. But the problem is, this is also laborious, because today I manage clients like Fateh Education and a few other clients like Apollo University and other clients in the education space. I've been into education for the last 10 years plus. So every day we need to go through about 25,000 search queries or more. Okay, practically impossible. So even if I want to run n-gram analysis, I cannot go through that kind of data on a daily basis because 25,000 search queries or more. So what else? What else is the last option? Surrender control to Google or any other ad platform, and just do away with everything, give it to AI, and hope that the returns come. So that's the state that where the bigger companies are taking us to. Okay, so yeah. So next thing, anybody thinks that search is dying or search ads are dying? If yes, why? Yes. Because of AI. Okay. Anybody else?
Google generates 90% of revenue from search.
Yes, Google generates 90% revenue from search. So it's dying or not dying?
It's not dying.
It's not dying. Okay. Anybody? Any other answers? It's gonna evolve. Okay. All right. Anyone wants to take one more shot? Yes. Overviews. Yeah. Yeah. Overviews. Yes. So you think it's gonna die? Yep. Okay. So let me come to the reasons here. Okay. So I have probably listed down a few of them. Okay. So both these reasons are true. All the answers that you gave are true. Okay. The first thing is user behavior is changing, meaning users are now using a lot more long tail searches. Okay. So long tail searches actually result in transactions in commercial value. Transactions happening. Okay. The second pattern that we are noting is kids these days are using voice search more because they can't type. In houses, if you notice, Alexas and the Google Homes or even the phones, right? They actually use, my kids use voice. Okay, so I understand that the kids are using voice more as opposed to keying in in a phone or a keyboard. Okay, so as you said, AI powered overviews are without ads currently. I don't know how or when there will be ads on them, but at least for now, um, people are considering that as the truth. Okay, so definitely there is one segment of what do you call search pattern is changing. I wouldn't say dying. I would say changing, and one of the pattern that we've already recognized is informational queries. Okay, are better handled in AI as opposed to commercial or a transactional query, right? So this is the on the side of yes, why it's changing or dying or evolving, whichever word that you want to put, and on the other side, okay, Google is a behemoth. It has the scale and the data. So just to give you a quick comparison, like we have the chat GPTs and the other AI tools of the world as opposed to Google. Okay, so these GPTs and other things get about 3 billion queries a month versus about 13 billion queries a day on Google. Okay, that's versus month and a day. So the scale is incomparable at this point in time. Okay, so uh, search is not dying anytime soon. Okay, AI is far from accurate. In general use cases, if you actually search with AI, look at the results with AI overviews, you might possibly want to believe that yes, AI is accurate, but there are a lot of use cases where AI is failing, and I have some examples as well. So we'll look into that. Okay. The third thing that we know is it's difficult to change user behavior, and generally speaking, of the older generation, right? So you cannot change the user behavior of people who are 30, 40 plus. They're used to typing. They can't go back to search, voice search, or any other form of this thing, searching. Next is no clicks is a phenomenon now. Okay, but yet there is branding happening. There is some amount of influence being created because of these users AI overviews, and possibly people are also following up with branded search queries because of the AI overviews, right? So even though no clicks are happening, the branding is happening for a lot of brands. Again, I have some examples to show in the next slides. And another important perspective with AI versus Google is generally these GPTs, right? People are using to what do you call automate their work, or speed up their work, do it much more efficiently, and that Google anyway doesn't do. So it's not a competition; it's more like a complementary thing because these serve a different purpose and Google serve a different purpose, right? So that's why we think that uh, Google or search is here to stay. It's not dying, but it's changing. It's evolving, as somebody said. It's changing and it's evolving, and it's going to be interesting to see because in the last 20 years, there was nobody who was taking a share away from Google. But now there are some tools which are taking some share, but we are evolving. Okay. So this is the example where I want to show you guys that what why AI is not correct. Okay. So somebody searched cheese is not sticking to pizza, and it actually showed that you can use non-toxic glue to make the sauce and give it more tackiness. Okay, so this is AI's response. Okay, so if somebody and what this response is not purely based on some logical understanding. It's possibly because the tools like Google is actually using forums like Reddit, Quora, and the information available on these forums to give this answer. So later somebody, in this example, this is available on the internet as well, that people figured out this was some random guy who had commented in a Reddit post that you can add non-toxic glue to stick your cheese and peas. So next one, how many insects are there in a Tropicana orange juice? Okay, and you can see it is the lab's symbol is there on the top left, which means it was early days, and the answer was on an average you have 2 insects per cup in a Tropicana orange juice. You all drink orange juice, Tropicanas, and that's what AI gave. Okay, so AI is far from accurate, and it is taking information from the internet, forums, and everywhere else, and it's giving you the answer. So next one, I think this is the best of all. Smoking while pregnant. Doctors recommended smoking 2 to 3 cigarettes during pregnancy. Okay, so this is another a prime example of when it started, how bad AI was. Okay, and then I just wanted to make sure that I didn't do just this, but also a little bit more. So I'll come back to the present day results of these 3 same queries and what it showed to me when I searched for it yesterday. Okay, so the next is workforce. Okay, so when you start advertising or when you plan for stability, you will have to let go a little bit of efficiency, and at scale, efficiency takes a little bit lesser priority, and you start optimizing for stability. That's where the approaches like using search as a list building tool comes in, where you can put all the cookies in the list you want, segment it the way you want, and once you segment these lists, you can actually run different types of ad campaigns across platforms. Okay, so common challenges that almost everyone in the lead gen industry would recognize. Since I am from the education industry, I have put education industry, but the first one would be CPL phobia. Okay, the moment they come say they look at, okay, you're generating lead at 600, you're generating leads at 1,000 rupees. Wow, this is not happening. You're doing a bad campaign. What I understood is this is primarily because they have the phobia, because they've been used to buying databases. Okay, they buy databases which comes dead cheap, and like say 50 rupees, 60 rupees a lead or something, or less than that, and then they compare the cost per lead of a Google or a Facebook. They are like mesmerized. Okay, this is not happening. You have to reduce the CPL, and that's when the campaign starts taking the downward turn. If you start reducing the CPL, you can't win the auction and you can't get the leads. The second major challenge in this industry is idle time of the counselors, or in other industries you can call it as the salespeople. As I said, this is one of their biggest heads in the balance sheet, and if that productive workforce is not working, they're making loss at both ends. The third one is decision maker trust. Okay, so when we go as an agency and talk to the clients, okay, so what they do is they trust their internal teams more than the agency. Okay, unless there's only one way at least in my career so far, I've cracked only one way, is you present them with contradicting factual data, and that's when they start listening to you. Till that point, they trust their sales team more, they trust their counselors more, and you don't have a chance at all by saying them, no, we are generating good quality leads, and if the sales team says, no, it's of bad quality, it's not happening. And the next challenge that we see in the industry is lead nurturing. Almost everyone in the industry doesn't have a lead nurturing plan. So if you don't have a lead nurturing plan for a long sales life cycle industry, like an education or a real estate, where typically the consideration times are say upwards of 8 months to about 2-3 years also, you really can't make the win. Okay, and from the sales team side, people like the bottom of the funnel leads, and that's what they want. Okay, so they want to convert it in quick and hurry. So they don't want to work hard. They don't want to make 100 calls. They just want to make some 5 calls and get the sales done. Okay, so this is pretty much across the board. And lead quality complaints. Okay, if you go talk to any client, they will talk to their teams and they'll give their top of the mind feedback and say that okay, the lead quality is not good, and they will never come back with the factual data. So this is another main problem. The other problem is call scheduling challenges, right? Counseling or sales is a job where you have to, if you get a good lead, you have to keep talking so that you can convert, and you can't really stick to a schedule, which means you can't have a scheduled timer per se. But till now, I have never seen a company where the CRM implementation is 100% perfect. So CRM efficiency or proficiency is another major challenge, and it's probably because the softwares have become so complex that it is difficult to train and maintain the same standards for this industry or any other industry. And for be red grapefruit juice has cochineal extracts, which is crushed from cochineal beetles. Okay, a little gross, but still much better than the answer of 2 to 3 cups of bugs or insects in your Tropicana juice last year. Okay, and the last one, I think cheese not sticking to pizza, and when I searched for it first, it didn't show me any overview. So and then I said, okay, let me search for an AI overview, and still shows that you can also add about 1/8 cups of non-toxic glue to the sauce to make it more tacky. So it's still not learned its lesson. Okay. So what do we do? So how many of you understand the term semantic search? Okay, a few hands there. Okay, so just to give you an understanding, whatever that we are referring to close match variants, right, is nothing but semantic search. Meaning Google is now trying to decipher the meaning of search queries and intent and pair it up with the right users. So that's why, if you notice this, again I've taken it from the internet because it made a lot more sense. Not my diagram, but somebody had done it. Cat eats fish, or Jim likes cat, or cat is an animal. This is how the relationships are formed, and the LLMs actually operate based on mathematical probability. They don't understand the meaning of queries. They operate based on mathematical probability of going through thousands and not thousands, probably lakhs and lakhs of books or text over the internet, and they derive the probability of deciphering. Okay, after this word, what word is going to come next? That's how the LLMs actually predict what is the text that they have to write. So in a semantic search world, when Google is trying to give you guys a meaning-based matching, you technically are saying that there is no phrase match, there is no exact match, because now if I search for one competitor, even without me bidding for another competitor, Google will still show the ad for another competitor because it understands that these competitors are from the same space. Okay? So if you are running competitor ad campaigns on Google search and you're not bidding for a specific competitor, and still your ad will be shown because Google understands that these are all players in the same industry. Okay? So that happens a lot to me because we have specific campaigns for competitors, we have specific campaigns for different types of regions, match types. I mean, match types are not there anymore, but at least regions and the kind of products that we need to promote and all of that, right? So semantic search is the way forward. And how do we, train Google or optimize for semantic search? Okay, so the new approach that we could think about is broad match with first party data, and negatives and title search terms. If anybody could recognize the title, advertisers don't be rich. I think if you had known the previous mission statement of one famously big company, you will understand what I mean. Um, Next is, are these approaches budget friendly? By nature, when you're um, advertising for advertising with the use of broad match, right? You technically are saying that spend on everything. Okay. So in this case, while people may still not fully realize it, the game is becoming big budget, friendly. So if you want to optimize, you really need to spend more, and you need to give the data back, and only then you will be able to optimize. Okay, so the game is changing. It's something looking like what used to be TV. Now it looks like digital is heading there, and I think last year the digital advertising spending crossed the traditional advertising spending, like print and TV put together. The digital crossed last year. So it's already becoming a game of big budget advertiser friendly. The other approach that I use personally is using search as a list building tool. Okay, instead of thinking, should I advertise? Should I? Well, this is not a very relevant query. Okay, here with the advent of cookie and first party data, what you can do is you can bring that user to the landing page and then cookie them, and then you can put them in exclusions. Okay, put the exclusion conversion, and you have a list of cookies ready to target again, which means you can do an RLSA campaign, you can do a remarketing campaign, you can do cross site campaigns as well, and then you have the data in a common first party data tool, and or the whichever way you are building it, right? And how many of you have been in a situation where advertiser has more budget than you can actually efficiently spend? Okay, one. Okay, two. Okay, so scale is a different beast altogether. Okay, so when you're talking scale, when we start digital marketing, right? Always advertisers come with a limited budget and tell you that okay, we want more efficient CPL, we want more from the same budget. We are not going to increase the budget. That's the same talk that I mean almost everyone goes through. But once you have an advertiser who has more budget than what you can efficiently spend, that's when the game changes. Okay? Because for them, while efficiency is important, okay, stability is even more important for them. Because they have their salespeople, counselors, whatever you call them, right? Okay? And probably they will change it to follow, and again they won't update. And the moment the inquiry plus follow-up rate is higher, we can see that the opportunity rate is lower. So this is a direct correlation because it happens quite often. Like there is Diwali, people don't pick up the calls, people are not in a call to people are not in a mood to make the phone calls. So this happens, or a New Year, or a Christmas, or a long weekends. Every time we see that any of these events happen, you see that the opportunity rate goes down and the inquiry plus follow-up rate goes up. The next one would be spend to opportunity rate. This is an interesting thing that we've analyzed over the years. Is when you run ads on multiple platforms, Google, Facebook, Meta, somehow in the early days, people had a lot of preference towards Google Ads. Okay, AdWords as it was called then, and the talk in the market was ingrained that it is intentful data, it is good data or good lead. Okay, but at the same time we were parallelly experimenting with Facebook, and when we go and talk to the clients, why are you spending so much on Facebook per lead? It's not intentful data. Okay, so that was the kind of questions that we used to get, and at that point in time, the only way we could actually justify to the client is, okay, let us map all the spends, okay, and map how many opportunities are being generated by each platform, and let's put a rate. Like, okay, for Facebook, we are spending 30% of the money, and we are generating 30% of the opportunities. For Google, we are spending 50% of the money, and we are generating about 40%. That's when the owners or the business decision makers actually realize that the percentage of spend and the amount of returns that they are getting is important, and not the thought which is ingrained in the market that intent is super official or better than what the results they are getting from. So this is another important way we analyze, and this has given us the freedom to experiment across platforms without any hesitancy or bias, because we know at the end of the day we are tracking the right metrics and we can actually justify it to the client in a proper way. Next is historical LTO, and which is mapped to city-wise. Okay, so I run campaigns across 9 cities for a single client, and what happens is city 1 there is a opportunity rate is 4%, city 2 is 9%, city 3 is 17%, city 4 is 11%. Okay, so when you have to calculate the number of leads required per city, you need to know the historical averages of LTO for that city, because over a period of time, you can actually see that each and every city has a pattern. And once you start looking and tracking at those patterns, you can back calculate how many leads you need for that city to achieve the same number of opportunities for the amount of counselors that they have. Okay? So if in city 1, just for example, there are 2 counselors and we need 2 opportunities a day, and the LTO rate is 10%, meaning if I generate say 20 leads, right? Within 20 leads, I'll get 2 opportunities. But at the same time, in another city, we have 2 counselors, and I need to generate 2 opportunities in a day, but the LTO rate is 5%, meaning I need to generate 40 leads for the same 2 opportunities. Okay, so this is where the numbers change drastically. So if you are planning campaigns for clients who have multiple cities, multiple branches, then you need to know this historical LTO, because without this particular data, you cannot plan for the right volume of leads. And another important metric that we swear by is city-wise lead stage. So every city, as I said, has a pattern, and when you do that, you also see that it's not just the opportunity which has a pattern, not interested has a pattern, disqualified has a pattern, ringing no response has a pattern, okay, applications have a pattern. So every lead stage that you take will over a period of time evolve, and you can see that if you start tracking data for say 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, you'll know that each and every city this is the average, and based on that, when you calculate and plan your campaigns better, you can actually do a lot more better planning for scale, because scale is a different beast. As I said, when you have an advertiser who can spend more money than what you can actually spend efficiently, you really need to give them consistent results, or else they are ready to fire you, right? And I think I read this quote somewhere on the internet: agency business is hard, and one of the founders said is, the day the clients hire you is the day they want to fire you. They are looking for ways how to fire you, right? So if you want to live on the edge and still retain clients, then you need to know your numbers, and that's why these metrics that we've evolved over the years are important. And I hope you find this is useful too. So now coming back to where we are at the search, right? So in search, we saw that the way forward seems to be the tighter ad groups and first party data, negatives, and a little bit of n-gram analysis and all that. So when we set up first party data solutions or tracking mechanism for the clients, we want to be ideally optimizing for the North Star metric, which is admissions. In the case of education, it can be admission, right? So that's when we started. And then once we started setting up events for admissions, we realized that there is no effect on any of the campaigns. And the realization was that, okay, admissions are going to happen once a year or twice a year. So which means the algorithm is going to get data after 6 months for optimization, and setting up that kind of a event, first party data event, is literally useless. Okay, so that was a mistake that we made, and we realized that you need to plan how you implement the first party data. Like I think Prashant also mentioned, it's the person who's using the tool needs to be intelligent. So you need to be a lot more intelligent in planning the events that you want to optimize for. Second consideration or pitfalls to avoid when you are setting up first party data is you need to consider the frequency and volume of events, right? Okay, so we said, okay, students are going to convert after 6 months or 1 year. So what we will do is we will optimize for applications. Okay, application can be filed many times, right? I mean, much earlier, and probably within a month or also people will start filing applications once the lead is there. So we started with that, and it was progress. Okay, from admission, which was 6 months to 1 year later, we saw that the progress is like applications are coming in, application data is coming in, but again, there was no any significant, what do you call, optimization happening because of the data, because the volume is too low and the frequency is also too less. Okay. Um, so just to give you a little bit of more context, why I'm saying volume is too low. In India, we have about 150 crore people, and out of that 150 crore people, only about 13 lakh people go and study abroad each year. Okay, so a lot of my data is based on this industry because that's where I specialize, and 13 lakh is so minuscule as compared to the total audience size, that the frequency and volume of the events for the clients that we work is negligible. And this is an industry where, what do you call, there are hundreds of competitors, hundreds, literally hundreds. So there are a few, 10, 15 good players across the industry. You can name a few that I had shown in the slide. But after that, there are hundreds and hundreds of competitors, which means for this 13 lakh students, probably we are talking about some 500 different competitors, trying to get the share, which means you are having not even 1% market share in the industry, and you're still spending crores. Okay, so the frequency and volume is extremely important while you are setting up your first party data events. It would be same for any high concentration purchase industries, something like a real estate or anywhere you're spending upwards of say 20, 30 lakhs per ticket, okay, or ticket in the sense whatever be the sales price be. Next one, we evolved, we learned, okay, applications is not the way to go. And then we said, okay, what else? So we decided that we need to have an event which will have a lower turnaround time and a higher volume. That's when we settled down on opportunities. Okay, so opportunities, just to reiterate, is nothing but sales qualified leads, if you understand that term. And in this, what we did is, then we learned again. Okay, so we said opportunity cold, opportunity strong, partial documents received, application filed, then visa deposit paid, visa success. So these were all the different life cycle stages of the education industry that where we work for, and each of these stages were generating data. Okay, so again, this was much better because the data was coming in daily, and the volume of data, was also significantly higher because if we get, roughly speaking, the education industry's average is, at least the higher education industry is about 2.5% final conversion rate, meaning every 33 or rather 3%. So every 33 leads, you will get one student, and every 33 leads, you will get about say 5 to 10 opportunities. So instead of getting one student data, now we got almost 10. So which means the opportunity data was coming, but it was coming in silos. Opportunity cold is one, opportunity is another, opportunity strong is another. So it was coming in silos, and it was working slightly better than before, but this was also not the most ultimate solution that we could think about. So the next thing, what we did is, we kind of, thought through the process and understood, okay, what can we do better here? How do we set first party data events better so that we'll get a better result? And after a lot of brainstorming and discussion, we came up with this segment, which we named as BOFU segment, or bottom of the funnel. And we combined all the bottom of the funnel stages, starting from the opportunity till visa success. We put all of these stages into one event, which means now that algorithm is getting highest amount of data possible in the shortest window. So once we did that, we could see the algorithms were giving us much better results. The event match quality on Facebook was actually increasing, and our campaigns, which were especially on Facebook, we saw the campaigns were giving about 4% conversion rate, moved to almost 9 to 11%. Okay, so planning is very important when you are setting up these first party data events. Without planning, if you're going and implementing these solutions, you're not going to get the right outcome. Okay, so that's majorly the kind of experience we've had with setting up first party data events and implementing with clients. To give a little more context, I work with clients where we generate almost 600 to 700 leads a day. So that's a lot of data per day, so that I know exactly that this is working, not working in a very short period of time. Lastly, one small issue that came up while setting up these first party data on Google is you have this conversion goals, and you will have primary and secondary as the category. Okay, so when you are setting up these conversion goals, you have to map only one conversion goal as primary and rest of them as secondary. Even though you are setting up OCI, you are setting up any other type of conversion events, you cannot have more than one as primary. Otherwise, you will have trouble. Okay, so that's a little bit about the pitfalls that you can avoid while setting up first party data. And important thing is, a lot of people miss this, is once they set up, they go and forget, okay, now data is working. But what we need to do is, once you go into Google's console, you hover over this active button, and you can see that it is showing whether recording conversions, enhanced conversion is active, or it's importing data quality is excellent, or whatever be the stage. So you need to keep a track of this, because forgetting, setting up, this is another mistake that we made and learned from it, is we set up these first party data events, and then we thought it was working, and suddenly after some time when we did an audit, we realized for 2 weeks the data was not going. There was some bug, okay? And when for 2 weeks data is not going, obviously we lost that window of opportunity, and a lot of data did not go. So it is very important to make sure that after you set the first party data, you go and check whether everything is working, and most likely put in place a process to check, okay, where everything is all right on a daily basis if you are working at scale. And once you also go into that, you also see the data, like, okay, this is the screenshot that I took yesterday, and out of 129, 127 events had successfully imported. So meaning we still have 2 failed events for yesterday, and but it's still okay. If you can see, the red marks are smaller and the blue marks are higher. So this is another way to check whether whatever that you've set is being imported properly or not, and you can go into the diagnostics to see it. Another event which we had set up had 341 events, and 334 of them were going into the system properly, and in fact there was on March 18th, there was a little bit more, failed events as opposed to the other days, if you can see that. So this is extremely important to keep a track, not just set the first party data events, but also to make sure that your data is being properly sent to these platforms, and once everything is there, then you will have higher returns. Okay? I think that's it. So thank you all. Any questions? Happy to answer. Yes.
So I tried like broad match.
Yes.
Right. So the industry which I work in basically is a community-based matrimony platform.
Okay.
So the search is very low, around 250K.
Mm.
Right. But I tried broad match, and earlier the campaigns were running on Facebook. Right.
Mm.
So I tried to scale it a bit, but the cost per conversion increased and CPC also increased. So how, like right now the campaigns are running, the brand campaign is running on exact match, right? And generic and competitor campaigns are running on sales match. But because the searches are very low, so I want to try broad match. So I want to scale. So how can we do that?
See, if I go back to the presentation, right? So the only way forward right now is this approach. Okay, so if you want to go broad match, you have to club it with first party data, along with negatives and tighter search teams with n-gram analysis. So if your client has limited budget, I'm assuming if they have more budget, they are not going to complain. They just want more results for their sales. But if they have limited budget, you need to implement all of this as a hybrid approach, not just go broad match. And then, if you do that, you literally are not telling Google that, these are not the right kind of leads, these are the good kind of leads that I want. So it is important for you to tell Google along with negatives and tighter search groups. So a combination of this will work as opposed to just setting up broad campaigns.
But the problem is because we are the community, we are targeting a specific religion. So there's a policy which states that if you're targeting the personalized advertising policy, so if you're targeting a particular religion or so we cannot like use remarketing or customer match. So because of that, we cannot use first party. So I was just trying to get some alternative that I can use to scale.
Okay, so remarketing, if you directly try to implement on Google, it may not. Okay, but if you use solutions like custom labs or a custom built solution, you may still be able to do a little better. I wouldn't say 100%, but you may be able to do a little better. Like for example, healthcare, it has the same policy limitations, right? So you can't run ads on healthcare, whether be it Meta or Google. But when you implement tools like this, first-party data tools, you can actually use the remarketing much more efficiently than what is available on those platforms. Because those platforms have stringent compliance norms to adhere to. And Meta will take your data off in 28 days, Google slightly higher, but I think it's the same thing. They won't be able to give you the right kind of remarketing solution as opposed to using an outsider platform where you can actually have a better result. We can talk about it more in detail, and I can't commit that whether your specific industry will be able to get that kind of a result, but we can check because there are policy limitations, and if there are policy limitations, we can't do much, but there are ways to go around it. So we can try first party data through any outside solution. Yes.
So, sir, I'm starting my gentleman client, which is I'm going to handle. We are going to start a healthcare and education, healthcare courses from brand from scratch. So I have to build the whole brand. So what should be my strategy?
Okay. Uh, Honestly, there's no one right answer. Okay. It depends, is what I would say. If you want to build a brand from scratch, and if you're talking about paid advertising, obviously you will have to think through multiple things, which is how are you going to create the awareness, and how are you going to give them more value for the content, and social media, all of this you need to do. So brand building is not a one line answer that I can answer here. But what I would say is, if your budgets permit, then do a lot of awareness in the first. And if your budgets don't permit, then go for legion straight away. Okay, because in theory, people say that you have to build campaigns top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. But when you go and sit as an agency, you actually do it the reverse way. You first build the bottom of the funnel, you deliver results, you show the wins, and then you say, okay, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And that's when you actually get the results as well. So, and the budgets and the approvals and the trust, right? So, in practical reality, where the budgets is a limit, is a concern, you'll have to do it the other way around, where you build the bottom of the funnel, then the middle and the top. In fact, I did my journey with Fateh like that. So when we started, in a year we are spending just about 15 lakhs. And today we are spending upwards of 25 crores in a year for that client. Okay, so it happened the reverse way. We first built the bottom of the funnel, then we said, why don't you try Facebook as well? And then we proved to them in metrics that, look, cost per lead is not the metric to go. You have to start looking at cost per opportunities. And from there we said, okay, why don't you do LinkedIn? And then we tried. At that point in time, LinkedIn cost per click was 150 rupees per click. Okay, so that didn't work as much. But today, in LinkedIn, you have something called as conversational campaigns, which actually give you much lesser cost per leads. In fact, almost comparable to Meta. So, in practical reality, you have to go the other way around. In theory, you have to do the awareness campaigns and whatever the budget permits. Company accounts. Company accounts.
Sir,
Yeah.
follow-up question. I have a question that what should be the platform mix, like 30% Meta, 30% as per your experience, I have educational grants, study abroad also, and in healthcare also. So what should be the platform mix for
Okay.
the new brand that I am building?
See, I'll answer the question in two ways. Okay. First is what I am seeing right now based on the experience, and the second is what applies to you. Okay.
And add up to that, I have a 7,50,000 budget for next 6 months.
Okay, got it. So first is when I started working on digital marketing, I thought, okay, the only way to scale is going as many platforms as you can, right? So 10, 15 platforms. That's when I started the slide. I said I've touched almost every platform available on the internet to run ads. But later, what I realized is somehow the 80-20 golden rule kicks in, and you see that with 20% of your efforts, you are getting 80% of your results, and remaining 80% of your efforts, you are getting 20% of the results. So when I started realizing that, I had to scale down. So from about 15 platforms, today I look at 4 or 5 platforms as the key for education industry, and then we actually scale down and now optimizing for scale over number of platforms where we are running the ads.